Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from MaliciousCompliance. Story 1 is by Denabsa1. Stick it to the rules. I just watched some Malicious Compliance that was so beautiful it almost made me cry. I live in New Jersey. A few years ago, a law was passed saying that stores can't give plastic bags, but may sell bags that last for over 125 visits. Because of this law, people have to remember to put their bags in the back of their cars and take them to the grocery store, which sometimes you forget. I've forgotten a few times and just loaded the groceries in the cart, take them to the car, dump them in, and then grab some bags or boxes when I get home. My local grocery store has self-checkout lanes for people with 20 items or less, and any larger order has to use the cashier. No big deal. It's usually easier with a large order anyway. When you go to the cashier, they have to put sold stickers on the larger items that won't go into the bag. For example, a gallon of milk, bag of dog food. Here's the malicious compliance. There was a kid, late teens, early 20s, in front of me who had a lot of smaller items and a couple of large items. He also did not have any bags. The cashier looked at his load and said the manager is enforcing putting stickers on anything that goes in the cart loose. So he should buy a bag for $1. Kid replies, "Sure, give me one bag." The cashier grabs a bag and starts scanning. The kid takes the large boxes of cereal and fills the bag, then says the bag is full. I guess you need to put a sticker on the other items. The cashier smirks and takes each item, scans it, puts a sticker on it, then scans the next thing. This was things like 1 banana, 1 apple, 1 orange, cans of soup, etc. Probably 20 or 30 things that would have been a tight fit in one bag. When it was my turn at the counter, the cashier just looked at me and said, "Please tell me you brought your bags." I wish I could do a poll and see how many people go to the store and forget their bags regularly. I think I've remembered to bring my bags to the store once. Some people are on top of that stuff. I never have been. I always have to buy more when I'm there. And our closet downstairs is like full of blue bags. And for a while we took one bag and we would stuff the other bags inside of it and have one big sack of bags, but it's gotten out of control. Our next story is by TossPot99. Are you sure you want to do this? By the book. Many moons ago I spent my youth in the army. I worked in the comms and spent some excellent years doing dumb stuff with some of the best guys and girls you could ever meet. One of those years after my misspent youth, I was deployed at a hot and sandy location. This length of deployment was unusual for me, as most deployments in the British Army are 6 months. The extra time was due to us being one of the first units deployed, and after supporting the initial deployment, they requested volunteers to remain and support and train some of the relieving units and newly deployed logistics headquarters. At this stage in my career, I had been lucky enough to jump from deployment to deployment, and I was loving the extra money that they gave me, so I happily volunteered to stay. I was tasked with supporting one of the logistics headquarters. I'd run that department earlier in the deployment and was happy to return to it, as it was far away from the main headquarters and all the boring adults and seniors that headquarters brings. Think sweeping the desert, that kind of thing. Our little detachment was an oasis in a sea of BS. It was just 6 guys and girls, with me as the detachment commander. I was a corporal full screw at the time. The isolated nature of our department meant that anyone there had to be able to operate independently, be very adaptable, and open to improvise to support where required. Our main unit also liked to send us their troublemakers. But due to the nature of the detachment, they could only send us people who could do their role also. So I ended up with all the best and most interesting scum of my unit, and it was amazing. For any Yanks reading, it would have been an E4 Mafia paradise. Within weeks, we had a patio and rock garden set up. We had a barbecue pit, shower area, gym. We'd sorted a deal with the local civilian contractors for us to receive beer in exchange for our help in vehicle and generator servicing. The best part was, due to us being a comms detachment, it was restricted entry into our area, so we were free from any surprise visits. Now that I've set the backstory, I'll get on to the malicious compliance. The headquarters we were supporting was regularly rotating its senior non-commissioned officers, SNCO, and officers from the deployment. They'd do the minimum time to qualify for a medal and they'd get replaced with someone new. It was a crappy practice that eventually got shut down, but not till much later deployments. We were fairly used to this by now, and the only overhead we had was creating new accounts for the seniors. The guys who actually did the work, my peer group in the headquarters, stayed the same, mostly. This latest rotation saw the old Regimental Quartermaster Sergeant, RQMS, being replaced by a newly promoted RQMS. This new guy was a jerk, full of his own self-importance. He hated that we had a little island of BS-free tranquility within his eyesight. I'd see him pacing outside our fence line when he first arrived, unable to comprehend that he wasn't allowed to just walk in. By this point, I had been in this location for about 6 months, and I was thoroughly past the point of giving any Fs. The RQMS hated that he had to deal with me, a lowly full screw as OC of the detachment, and myself and my crew of reprobates was out of his chain of command. One day, he absolutely lost his crap because we were barbecuing half a goat and had invited a few of his guys to join us after work for some beers and delicious goat wraps. By this stage, we'd use Hessian to fence off our barbecue and bar area so that we could obscure it from prying eyes. He went off to get some of his unit's regimental police, RPs. These are not real military police, just jobs worths with no real job in a unit, to come and shut us down. I told them to jog on. They weren't getting in my detachment, and I don't care who sent them. Apparently, the next day, he was apoplectic. The guys who worked with him warned us he was determined to bring my detachment to heel. His solution was removing our welfare package that we were issued through his department as a favor from his guys for some services that we were providing. It consisted of a small fridge, TV and British Forces Broadcasting Service TV decoder, BFBS box. The conversion went roughly as thus. RQMS. Corporal Tosspot, it appears that there has been a paperwork error and you have been given one of my welfare packages by mistake. Me. Okay, sir. I'd be happy to fill that in. Shall I drop by your office? RQMS. You can drop by my office and bring the package, but you won't be filling in any paperwork, Corporal. You may have wrangled the last RQ, but as far as I'm concerned, you lot can do one if you think you're getting the welfare package back off me. And if there's anything else I find that isn't 100% correct paperwork-wise, then I'll be shutting that right down. You may not be mine, and I may not be able to enter your little compound, but I'm going to have you, son. Every resup demand, every transport request better be completed correctly, or I'm going to make your lives heck with paperwork and admin. Q. Malicious compliance. Me. I'm sorry to hear that, sir. I'm sorry you feel the service we provide isn't good enough. The old RQMS was very happy with the services he was getting from us and sent over the spare welfare package as a thank you. Are you sure that it's paperwork that's the issue here? Are you not happy with the phones and the internet? RQMS. Corporal, I have no complaints regarding the comms. You just need to complete the correct paperwork and have it authorized by me. At this point, it's clear that he's never going to authorize the return of the welfare package and is very smug about it. Me. Okay, sir. You're of course correct. Paperwork is essential. RQMS. Are you giving me attitude, Corporal? Me. Not at all, sir. Just agreeing with you. To be clear, you are happy with everything else we provide the headquarters. You just want me to complete the correct paperwork? RQMS. That's correct, Corporal. Me. No problem, sir. Happy to oblige. I delivered the welfare package back to his stores. His guys were very apologetic. I told them not to worry. You see, the welfare package was a thank you for all the extra phone lines and terminals that we'd provided for the previous RQMSs. These expanded his and his unit's working capacity. Most importantly, I had run phone lines to the sleeping area so that him and his lads could call home without using their limited welfare phone cards. I'd also laid some precious unfiltered internet lines too. Internet to deployed units is very rare, and unfiltered internet is almost unheard of for British units. What I was providing was immense value to lonely squatties, and it was also without paperwork. When I got back to my detachment, I flicked a couple switches, turning off all the paperworkless connections. I waited for the inevitable. It didn't take long. The first visitor was one of the privates letting us know that he'd been cut off mid-call back home. I apologized and explained what was going on with the RQMS. He understood, not happy about it, but understood. He went off muttering about throbbers who can't leave well enough alone. The next one was one of the RQMS's full screws, who I have a lot of time for. She came around and asked what was going on with the comms. She was in the office when I had the conversation with the RQMS earlier. We had a bit of a chat about what a belter he is, and then she asked what was going on. I explained that as per his request, we were following his example and doing things by the book. And I've turned off all services without the correct paperwork. She looked at me knowingly. So what does he mean? She asked. I explained that the only services I had been ordered to provide were for the headquarters. The rest would have to request them through me and be approved by the division headquarters as per orders. I handed her a copy of the request forms to be completed in triplicate as I didn't have a photocopier and they couldn't be sent to me by email, as I just turned their kit off. She had a bit of a chuckle and went back to her boss, paperwork in hand. You see, the only orders I had were for the 6 lines and terminals in the headquarters. The 30-odd lines I'd laid extra were essentially me being a good bloke and supporting the mission and departments as they grew around the headquarters. It was initiative and adaptability on my part. These were all now off, and I had a steady stream of visitors throughout the day wanting to know what was going on. I directed them all to the RQMS, who had the request forms. My last visitor was the operations captain. He was a top bloke, a late entry officer, had gone through the ranks from private to regimental sergeant major, and was now commissioned as an officer, who had spent more than a few nights in our compound with a beer and talking crap with us. He was one of the very first recipients of a private line and internet. He asked me what was going on. He'd been around the houses, so he knew there were shenanigans afoot. I told him the situation. His face dropped. "Leave it with me," is all that he said, and off he went. 30 minutes later, the RQMS was back at the entrance to my compound with the welfare package. The ops captain was with him, looming over him as only an RSM can. Me, "Hello, sir. How can I help?" RQMS, very sheepishly. "Hello, Corporal. There seems to have been an error and we've found your paperwork for the welfare package. So I'm returning it, with my apologies." Me, "No need to apologize, sir. Easy mistake to make." RQMS, "So, are we good?" Me, "And the other paperwork moving forward?" RQMS, "There's no need for all that," looking over his shoulder at the ops captain. "We are, after all, on the same team." Me, "We are indeed, sir." I look over my shoulder and give one of my guys a nod. "I think you'll find everything is now back to as it was." RQMS, "Excellent. Thank you very much, Corporal." And off he went. The ops captain stared daggers at him as he left. He just gave me a nod and confirmed that drinks were still on for the next day and toddled back off to his pit. I was never bothered by the RQMS again. One of the big downsides I've noticed in military over time, there's downsides and upsides to rank. There's some people who get an air of self-importance and they think they're the big man and the big authority, and they have to try to get somebody that they don't like, that doesn't do exactly everything that they want them to do, or behave how they expect them to. But then there's upsides to rank too. You get some gentleman who's a good guy who outranks that person. Almost always in all of these military stories, somebody of a higher rank comes in and puts the kibosh on one of these jerks. There's quite a few acronyms in that story that I've never experienced before, and I wonder if it's because it's a British unit and I don't know most of those ranks. But I don't have a lot of experience with military ranks to begin with, in the States or elsewhere. Our next story today is by Feisty B 7779. Sure, we can follow the contract. I work as an account manager for a food distribution company. I have a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't disclose the type of materials or type of project, so that will be relatively vague, but the story is still good. Okay, so we work with a chain account and service all their locations in our state. This is a relatively small but global chain that is historically very challenging to work with. Management is aggressive, pushy, just not nice. Our company is a tiny, family-owned and operated company full of nice goofballs. We don't take things too seriously, provide great service, and put up with, honestly, way too much from them. We're their contracted distributor. There are a few items in the contract that no one follows and hadn't followed for years. One of those being monthly pricing audits. No one from their corporate had ever asked for it, but we never brought it up because our pricing is not always consistent with the contracted price we're supposed to charge the locations. Reason being is we're often able to get a product for cheaper elsewhere and to also sell for other accounts outside the chain, so we're not always compliant, but it's always for the benefit of the customer. Well, our direct contact at the company, quit, and the head honcho over there stepped in to take her place. He insisted that we begin sending monthly pricing audits per the contract. Mind you, this guy is just nasty. I've had to drive around to every location in the state to recover a product the location uses less than about a case a year of because they want to teach us a lesson for running out of something one time. They assign us complaint forms that I have to go into their site and resolve the complaint. It's usually about something stupid. For example, you said you were going to receive a product on this day, but you didn't tell us if you got it yet. Please write out your 5-step action plan and solution to being better partners to us. Ugh. So anyways, we dragged out the audits for a while, but were unable to avoid it, so we brought up another item in the contract that had been neglected in attempts to be like, if you're going to enforce this, we're going to enforce the whole contract. It stated that if we were carrying an item for this account that moved less than X number of cases a week, that we would be able to charge a storage fee per month that it sat in our warehouse. They said yes, we need to be following the contract 100%. Well, we found that almost 90% of the products did not move X number of cases a week, and we were eligible for a storage fee to be added on. The language stated that we were also to back charge for the months that it sat in the warehouse that we did not charge a storage, which meant that there were items that had a price increase of about $30 per case. That's ridiculous, especially for a restaurant in our state. We alerted the company and said, hey, while this would be more money for us, we really don't want to do that to our customers. They said it didn't really matter and we had to follow the contract, and if any stores complained, I was to send them directly to their corporate rep. So, the updated contract pricing went into effect, effectively bumping up the prices of their most popular items by about 10%, and the storage price by about 30% on their lowest moving items, increasing overall pricing by about 25%. Stores are livid. It totally sucks for them and I feel super badly about it, but it's a result of their corporate being a-holes. The best part is now I get these complaint things about pricing all day long and I just get to tag their corporate representatives to deal with it instead. I have less work and we make about 25% more off an account. They wanted us to follow the contract, right? Corporate doesn't care if people are happy. They just want to make their money. And corporate won't feel the cost of this. They are incurring a cost here, but they just push it off on the customers by jacking up the price on everything. Some higher-ups in a company demand that you follow the contract exactly as is, and they're told, hey, this is going to cost you like a lot more to do this. And they're like, no problem, just follow the contract. We'll make the customers pay for it. The lowest tier in our totem pole here will end up incurring the cost. No worries. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a great day.